Hello and welcome to Ryno's Orioles Report. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Not a great end of the homestand for the Orioles. Kind of let the Kansas City Royals come into town and do some stuff. Kansas City Royals got a bunch of young guys and they showed their talent pretty good, pretty well. For the most part, the Royals are in a similar position that the Orioles were in a few years ago. They got a bunch of young talent because, the standings at the end of the year have not been kind to the Royals. Got a lot of draft picks and been developing their talent, and can see some of that talent coming into the big leagues right now. Take a look at the first game. This is Monday's game. Yeah, I went to this game. Finally got to go to my first game of the year, and thankfully they won. Hopefully they keep that up. Wasn't going as well as you thought it would. Those first two games, anyway, against the Angels, tons of offense. And come to the next four games, and it's a little less offense there. Struggling a bit to keep up with the other team with the bats at times. As you can see, Monday's game, Kansas City Royals 4, Baltimore Orioles 6. Take a look at the ninth inning. 1 run by the Royals, 2 runs by the Orioles. Yes, dramatic fashion. Take a look at the lineup. Henderson 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Mini slump for Henderson, I guess. Rutschman, about the same for him. 2 for 3 with a walk, scored a run. Santander 1 for 4 with an RBI, scored a run. Mountcastle had a pretty good game here. 2 for 4, 3 RBIs. Maybe even more than a pretty good game. A really good game. O'Hearn 1 for 3. Was lifted for a pinch runner late in the game. Was it the 8th inning, or when did he get this? I'm not even sure when he got that hit, but Cowser ended up pinch running for, Mateo. Mateo ended up pinch running for O'Hearn. Couldn't get Mateo in. Sucks. So later on in the game, you wanted Cowser, lefty bat. He ended up pinch hitting. 0 for 1 though. Hayes 0 for 4. Hayes is off to a very slow start. What does he have? 2 hits? 2 hits the first 6 games. I don't know, man. It's not going to cut it. Now, how long do you allow this to go on without, let's say, putting Cowser in? More to come on that later within the next 2 games. Mullins 1 for 4, scored a run. Westberg 1 for 4, 2 RBIs, scored a run. Yeah. The hero of the night. 2-run home run. Walk-off. Rutschman double. Mountcastle home run. Another 2-run home run. Westberg 2-run home run. Errors. Arias fielding error. Henderson fielding error. So, for the most part, pitchers not benefiting. Well, though, to a certain extent, yes, they weren't benefiting from the great defense. At the same time, that those guys that got on because of the error didn't necessarily come around to score. But does prolong the, not really prolong the lineup, but it does turn the lineup over more often. Pitcher has to throw more pitches, gets a little tired sooner. So Dean Kramer, 5 1/3 innings. 3 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Now you like the 5 strikeouts. 5 strikeouts, that's good. The 1 walk and 3 hits, almost a 1 whip. It's not great. It's not terrible. You would like to see it a little lower, but I think we could live with a whip of 1 or less. So not really a terrible pitched game by Kramer, but because of some of the defense that, defensive miscues, I guess we'll call them, did have to get a few more outs. It's going to happen. If you give another team extra outs, at some point they're going to take advantage of it. Keegan Aiken, liking what I'm seeing from Keegan Aiken so far this season. 1 1/3 of an inning pitched, only 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. It's pretty good. Hopefully Keegan Aiken can keep this up. Cano came in next, 1 1/3 also, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, which isn't good for Cano, with 1 strikeout. That's too many base runners for our liking, with Cano's track record anyway. Finally, Greg Kimbrell gets some action. 1 full inning pitched, the 9th inning, 1 hit, 1 run, no walks, 2 strikeouts. To a certain extent, this was bad luck. It was it the second batter? It was the second batter he faced. As you can see here, Kimbrell only faced 4 batters. Struck 2 of them out. So he strikes 1 guy out, then there's we'll call it a flare into, I guess we can call it shallow left field now, since left field's pretty large now because of the reconfiguration of the wall. So either your left fielder has to come hard charging in and get to the ball, or your shortstop, because he's probably going to have a better angle, needs a hard charge it out to shallow left field. Not the easiest play to do. Now, who was in left field at this time? Was it Hayes? Yeah, it was Hayes. Hayes wasn't able to get there. Henderson did get near the ball, but he did kind of overrun it a little bit and wasn't able to make the over-the-shoulder catch. So man on, and of course the Royals, in true Royal fashion, puts their speed guy in there and he steals 2 bases, which, yeah, isn't great, but at the same time, go find me a closer that holds runners really well. Doesn't happen that often. So of course he steals 2 bases, and then the next guy hits a sacrifice fly. But blew the save. Disappointing. Kimbrell does strike the next guy out, though. So tough to evaluate that outing. A little chillier than I think maybe some people are used to. Maybe a little wetter as well. Did get a little bad luck with that flare to left field. Can you say this was a bad outing by Kimbrell? His first one of the year. Potentially, but it's only been 1. So we'll wait for this to be more consistent of a thing before we hit the panic button. All right, let's come to game 2. Tuesday's game, Kansas City Royals 4, Baltimore Orioles 1. Not a great offensive showing here. And you can really tell by the first 4, and maybe even the first 6 spots of the lineup. First 4, Henderson, Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle, all of them 0 for 4, with no walks. 4 strikeouts in total, though Rutschman did not have a strikeout. He didn't strike out. Santander struck out twice. Come the next 2 guys, O'Hearn, because he only got 3 plate appearances, did walk once, but otherwise 0 for 2. Mullins, your 6th man, 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts. Westberg, 1 for 3, scored a run. Colton Cowser, finally seeing Colton Cowser play instead of Austin Hayes. 2 for 3 with 1 RBI. And he now has as many hits as Hayes does. Might be the end for Austin Hayes. though we are assuming Colton Cowser can play left field in Camden Yards. We'll have to see. Tony Kemp, first starting action for him, over 3. Yeah, not a good game. Westberg, Cowser, doubles. Do like seeing that. Come to the pitching side. Now, a lot of this, you could say bad hitting by the Orioles, or you could say really good pitching by Mr. Marsh on the other side. Won 7 great innings, only allowing 2 hits and 1 run, striking out 5. Walked 1. That's a very good performance. You're not going to see that many better performances out of a starting pitcher. At least not in today's Major League Baseball. It's somewhat rare to see a starting pitcher go 7 innings. Cole Irvin on the other side, Orioles' 5th starter, 5th in line in the rotation. At least for now, anyway. We do have 2 starters that are on, we'll call it the IL. Though for John Means, it is more of a, because of the forearm discomfort, strain, pain, whatever you want to call it. Initially started last October. He is somewhat more behind other starters. So might actually see John Means sooner than we may have thought, because based on the information I've gathered, it's just that John Means isn't stretched out enough. So far, anyway. Cole Irvin, 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Not very good. I mean, that's almost a whip of 2. You don't want to see that at all. But, I mean, it was a tough game. I mean, when your opponent on the mound is dealing like the way Marsh was dealing, it's, kind of fighting an uphill battle. Dylan Tate came in next. 1 inning pitched, 1 hit, no runs, did walk 1, but struck out 2. Now, yes, this is a whip of 2, and no, that isn't good, but very few appearances by Dylan Tate in the past 2 years, so might wait a bit, before we hit the, not necessarily panic button, but start saying, hey, you got to get rid of Tate. You got to get somebody else in there instead of Tate. Did strike 2 batters out, which is very good. Webb came in next. 1 full inning pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks, struck out 2. So, looks like Jacob Webb is still the same Jacob Webb. Mr. Heasley, got to see our first Mr. Heasley outing. Actually pitched with the Royals last year. He is taking the roster spot of Cionel Perez, who is still dealing with the oblique strain. No real update on that either. Heasley, 2 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks, struck out 2. So far, so good with Heasley. I mean, not too much better than he could have done. Maybe struck out 6. But that's kind of asking a lot. All right, so rubber match. This was Game 3 of the series between Kansas City Royals and the Baltimore Orioles. This game was scheduled for 1 o'clock, but they actually didn't start playing baseball until 6 o'clock. Long rain delay. And yes, they waited around that long because the Kansas City Royals do not come back into Baltimore at all this season. So, rather than having to make them travel another time, just wait a few more hours and find a window to get the game in, which they were able to do so. Royals 3, Orioles 4. You see, all the offense early, the first 7 innings was all Kansas City Royals, But the last 2 innings were all Baltimore Orioles. Good for us. Does show some, we'll call it resiliency. You're sticking with it. You're down. You didn't have a good offensive game yesterday. You're waiting 5 hours in the rain to get this game started. You do get the bats to wake up, but you had to wait patiently for a long time. Henderson 0 for 3 with an RBI. Disappointing, but happens. Rutschman 2 for 3, 1 RBI, 1 walk. Rutschman DH in this one. James McCann starting at catcher. And yes, we're back to this. I completely understand you want Adley Rutschman in the lineup. I'm not saying that I don't want his bat in the lineup. I just think his body could use a rest more than he seems to be given. Though, if you do DH him more than once a week and give McCann more than 1 start a week, then maybe that could suffice. Mountcastle 0 for 2. Did walk twice, scored once. You don't like the 0 for 2, but we'll take the 2 walks. The 2 walks is pretty good. Santander, 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Not great. Mullins did pinch run late. Very late. Mullins was able to score. Westberg was the hero Monday in the comeback. Not the case this game. He went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Austin Hayes, 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts. Was able to work a walk, though. Mateo actually got to start in center field in this one. Gave Mullins a day off, at least initially, from starting anyway. But Mateo 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Not great. As you can see, Colton Cowser pinch hit late, lefty bat, and went and played in center field. So you didn't need to, change the defense replacement there. But Cowser 1 for 2, scored a run, did strike out once. James McCann ended up being the hero in this game. 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, the 2 RBIs that won the game in the 9th, and actually scored a run, which was in the 8th. Double by McCann, double by Rutschman. Rutschman actually, one of his RBIs scored a runner in the 8th, that got the Orioles to 2. And no, it wasn't a double. He got the double another time. He was thrown out at second base. That's what I'm trying to get to. Hit the ball to right field. Hunter Renfroe playing out in right field for the Royals. Probably one of the best throws and catches and tags by a right fielder and a second baseman to cut down a double that you're ever going to see. Renfroe going to his left, scoops the ball up at the wall, spin move, throw to second base. I'm not even sure he was looking at second base when he threw the ball, but it was practically a seed right to second base. Bobby Witt Jr. catching the ball. Like, right as he's catching it, there's Rutschman in there sliding into the tag. It was, to a certain extent, it was the perfect throw and the perfect tag, which is what they needed to get Rutschman. Otherwise, they're probably not getting Rutschman. It was, you see the look on Rutschman's face like, did that just actually happen? Yeah, bro, that happened. You're out. Sorry. Happens every once in a while. To a certain extent, you do want to do that. You want to put pressure on the defense, make them make a great play. Kansas City Royals and their defense between Mr. Renfroe and Mr. Witt Jr. came through for them on that. Or it would have been worse, and they may have actually lost the game in the eighth instead of the ninth. Coming to the pitching, Corbin Burns got to start in this one. 5 2/3 of an innings pitched, 9 hits, 2 runs, all earned, no walks, 3 strikeouts. Yeah, don't really like the 9 hits. Don't really like the 9 hits at all. But with the performance we saw on opening day, really the only direction he could have gone would be down. It's disappointing as it is, but I think his opening day outing was that good. Now, he didn't walk anybody, which is great. You like that. You do like the fact that you made the Kansas City Royals earn the hits or earn their base runners, which they did. So you can see there weren't actually any errors. Holy shit. You actually did make your opponent earn their base runners. Allowed to them to score, though, it's not great. Only 3 strikeouts. It's down to a certain extent. I mean, having to wait around 5 hours after you've probably already started getting loose, not great, is not the greatest scenario anyway. Though at the same time, I think they could see that it was going to be raining for a while, and you shouldn't be getting ready at noontime. Bauman, next man out of the pen. One full inning, not necessarily a full inning, because he came on in the 6th inning with 2 outs. So not necessarily a full inning pitch, but he did pitch to 3 outs. Did give up a hit, did give up a run. It was earned. Did walk somebody. Did strike one person out, though. So you don't like that he gave up runs, but it is going to happen every once in a while. It was a home run, wasn't it? Yes. No. Yes. Mr. Garcia, home run off of Bauman. Danny Coulombe, 1 1/3 of an innings pitched. So he finishes off the 7th and then pitches the full 8th inning. No hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. That's great. Wonderful performance. Mr. Cano came in for the 9th, ended up with the win in this one since the Orioles walked it off in their half of the 9th. 1 full inning pitched by Cano, no hits, no runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. So all in all, I mean, the series, it was a pretty good pitched series by the Orioles pitching staff. Just took a while for the bats to wake up to enough to get wins out of it. Was somewhat very dramatic in the 9th inning because, as you can see here, 2 out RBIs, McCann 2. Yeah, so he got the 2 RBIs with 2 outs in the 9th. What happened? I think Mountcastle walked, then Santander singled, so 1st and 2nd, and then Mullins comes in to pinch run for Santander. I'm not sure I completely agree with that. I feel like I would have pinch run Mullins for Mountcastle. So the lead runner, the tying run, you kind of want the tying run to score first. Probably would have been what I did. Would have been an easy switch because, well, I guess we're assuming that Cowser or Hayes could play right field, which I'm pretty sure they could. You could have put Santander in the first base. I was kind of surprised. I do get it why you would put Mullins in for Santander. I just don't. To be honest, I probably would have pinch run both of them. Just to make sure you had enough speed. I mean, okay, Mountcastle's fast. Is he? Is Santander fast? I mean, you probably don't. Well, you didn't have Mateo because Mateo started. So do you want to use Kemp and Mullins? Or do you really only just want to use Mullins, and then you got to figure out where exactly you want Mullins to go? Santander's probably the one you would want to pinch run for most. And then what happened? I mean, this was all happening with, the lead, with no outs. And then Westberg and Hayes and Kauser. Wow, man. It's kind of shocking that they couldn't do anything. Though somebody did move the runners up. Who moved the runners up? It's either Kauser or Hayes, I thought. Kauser struck out. Hayes, that's right. Hayes was intentionally walked to load the bases. Westberg bunted, got the runners over, second and third. Hayes intentionally walked, which, I mean, it does seem kind of weird to do that, right? Why did you bunt Westberg? You probably figured that they would have intentionally walked Hayes, though Hayes had like 2 hits on the season, so I don't know why you wouldn't pitch to him, but okay. But again, with the bases loaded, here Kauser strike out looking not great, though he is kind of young. Luckily, McCann in a favorable count. If you can see this here, 2 balls on the count. So work the favorable count. A little more dramatic than to my liking, but that's how you got to win them sometimes. But that is something this team has done. It's almost their MO sometimes. The bats are either completely awake early in the game, or they're not awake for the whole game, or not awake until the end. Kind of odd how this team works sometimes. But that is the series. Come to the schedule, and you can see the record in the series: 2-1. Orioles are now 4-2 on the season. Very young season here. Record's not necessarily that important, but you can see 2 series wins to start off. Next up today, Thursday, off day, and they're headed to Pittsburgh to play the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that is their home opener. And that, I assume, is why there's a wonky time here. You got games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday's game scheduled for 4:12. That's pretty odd. It's a pretty odd number. Pretty odd time. Not number. Yeah. I mean, it's technically a number, but a pretty odd time slot. Saturday scheduled for 4:05. That's kind of a somewhat standard one. Sunday scheduled for 1:35. Pittsburgh Pirates have actually been playing very well this season. Hopefully, the Orioles can stop that. And I know it's their home opener, so might be a little bit extra juice for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hopefully the Baltimore Orioles can overcome this. But as you can also see another scheduled off day for Monday. So look for another edition of Ryno's Orioles Report Monday after the Pittsburgh Pirates series. It's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Angry Ryno, and this is Birdland.